Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Preview Show. It is week 2. The games are here. The NFL's here. We can get rid of that excuse of, it's week 1. We're in week 2. We've already had one game, Adam. We're going to go through our winners and losers. We're going to definitely get some tips off of you for betting and win a load of people a load of money. But we've had one game in already. It was the Chargers versus Kansas. How did you feel that went?
I think that went fairly predictably. I think everyone was a little bit scared of not the Chargers. Everyone was a little bit scared of the Chiefs this year because Tyreek Hill wasn't there anymore. But we are still seeing how good they are, and that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with without Tyreek Hill. And he's moving the ball around. Mahomes is moving that ball around a lot more, and that's kind of what I hoped for Aaron Rodgers and my Packers. And I think you're starting to see that by not having the main wide receiver there, it's, there's different places that the defenses are struggling a little bit more with who to pick up. So I think, I think when it comes to the Chiefs, I'm not really that surprised. And I thought the Chargers did well. I thought they played really well against them and were a little unlucky, especially with Herbert's injury at the end. So.
Yeah, I mean, Herbert's injury and the interception down in the end zone, I mean, it was there for the Chargers taken, really, wasn't it, to try and win that game and put it out. But yeah, Kansas City, I had a few doubts over Mahomes last year with when everything isn't perfect. I didn't see the same guy, but I don't think everything's perfect this year. And I'm seeing him take a step forward. So it's really nice that there is people like Patrick Mahomes that have still got steps to take in their career. They're not like fully polished, and I'm seeing that from him.
I think the one thing that has really improved is the O-line. We saw that at the back end of last year. I think they've had more time together. They look a lot better. The run game is starting to come in as well. So I think because of that, that's where you're starting to see it. It's getting better for them. And like I say, just because you've lost Tyreek Hill doesn't mean that it's all going to fall apart. So
yeah, it's nice to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire up to the standard that we thought he was going to pitch in. But we'll move on to the rest of the fixtures for week 2. Everyone should know the format by now after having a full season of it. So we'll go right into it with the first game on my list. It is the New York Jets at the Cleveland Browns.
No, I thought you were going to pick your team first, but okay, we're going to go for the Jets and the Browns. I mean, this is what we wanted, wasn't it? This year, we desperately wanted Joe Flacco against Jacoby Brissett. What a cracking game this is going to be. I think, if I'm right, the over-under is about 39, and it's going to be an achievement to get to 39, I think, with these two teams at the moment on offense. It's not great. The Browns did what the Browns do. They ran the ball very well against Carolina last week. And I think that you'll probably find that the Browns will run the ball very well against the Jets. So, you've got Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They're both very, very low prices. You're like 5 to 6, 21 to 20. So there's nothing really in it, to be honest. You could put them in accumulators and stuff like that. I don't really feel there's much on the passing side of it when it comes to the Browns that you want to be betting on. There's just not a lot there. When it comes to the Jets, Flacco passes a lot more. That's what he does. He just stands there, hopes he doesn't get hit, and basically throws the ball as much as he can. So that's kind of what you're looking at. I think Elijah Moore is kind of the guy, really, at the moment for the Jets. He's 11 to 4, so that's the one at the price. The only other one that I saw that I thought was a little bit better was potentially Tyler Conklin at 15 to 4. So it's a little bit bigger. He was there last week, did okay. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's not really a lot to go for. But I think the Browns will win. But it's not going to be a great game.
No, I kind of got this one going the Browns' way, and I've got them winning quite comfortably. I thought they'd slip up and they'd struggle against the Panthers, and they didn't. They were better than what I thought they were, despite the fact that They haven't got a lot going for them at quarterback and receiver at the moment, but they still managed to play the game out. Their defense was strong, wasn't it? So that's it was always going to be a thing. I think Kareem Hunt is a great get out of jail clause for them because he's so good at receiving the ball. So he's essentially a wide receiver for them, and he's so quick once you get the ball in his hands. I think between the two of them, of Chubb and Hunt, that's going to be the majority of their offense, and I think it will work for them. I
think they'll do really well, them too. I just think the prices are very short.
Yeah. I mean, I looking at the other side, looking at the Jets. I think Michael Carter was fantastic. He's always got a chance of getting in the end zone, and I thought the second half of the game, Garrett Wilson really came into his own, and they started to throw the ball towards him a lot more. So I think there could be some value in that with him being a rookie.
Yeah,
Elijah Moore is the guy.
Yeah, I think Elijah Moore is the guy. I mean, the problem I found was that Carolina they struggled to get the run going against the Browns as well. So, I mean, do we really think that the Jets are going to be able to do that? I think it's going to be a bit of an issue for them. So, I mean, I like Michael Carter. I think he's a great running back. When they brought in Breece Hall, it kind of felt like a bit of a shame that Michael Carter wasn't going to be the guy. I mean, he was in the first week, but obviously it's not going to be like that all the way through the season. So I think that was a bit of a shame. But yeah, I think the Jets are just in a bit of a sticky situation at the moment, which they have been for many years, and I just don't see it changing. And like you say, on this particular one, I think the Browns can just run enough in order to be able to get the win.
Yeah, they've had a few injuries on the O-line, haven't they, the Jets? And it's not the O-line they thought it was going to be. So that's never a good start against the Browns. So we'll look at the next game. It is the Washington Commanders at the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, so this one it's an interesting one. It really is. I mean, not many people were saying that the Lions against the Commanders was going to be an exciting game last year, but it does actually feel like it could be quite a good game. I like the over at 48.5. I think that's definitely plausible that could happen. When it comes to the Lions, I think you could probably have money on any of these guys. I mean, most people were looking at Swift, obviously, at 5-4. There is the ankle injury, but it looks like he's going to play. If he's going to play, he's fit, kind of thing. So I would be surprised if Swift doesn't do well. So that's at 5-4. Jamal Williams is also 5-4 though, which is a shame because he's normally a slightly bigger price, but he's the goal line guy. If they end up in the last 5-6 yards, that ball's going to Jamal Williams. So yeah, he's another one. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 5-4 again. Love St. Brown. Think he's always likely to get a touchdown every week. That seems to be how it's going to be. Jared Goff seems very happy with St. Brown, so I think that's definitely one you should be looking at. But the one at the price on the Lions side is DJ Chark. Now, Chark got a touchdown last week. He looked decent. I always thought he was pretty decent in Jacksonville. It was Jacksonville at the time. And so I think that Chark is definitely one worth having a look at 15-8. It's the bigger price out of all of them. Obviously, it's a bit less likely to happen, which is why it's the bigger price. But he is the wide receiver too on that team at the moment. And it kind of feels like he's the one that's worth looking at. When it comes to the Commanders, all of a sudden Carson Wentz has suddenly morphed back about 5 years or something and has become a quarterback worth looking at. And it was against the Jags, so we can't be too excitable about it. But he looked good, and he found McLaurin, and McLaurin did well. Curtis Samuel looked good again after his injury last year, so that's another one worth looking at. However, the guy who got 2 touchdowns last week, Jahan Dotson, the good thing is he's the price. He's the one to go for. So he's 12-5, which is a decent bet. against a Lions team that let a lot of points go against the Eagles last week. I think because of that, although Dotson didn't get as many targets as McLaurin, I think he's, there's a, like I say, if you think it's going to be over 48.5, which I think it will be, then Dotson's going to be out there. And at 12-5, he's going to be the price. So I do really like Dotson. I do really like Chark. Obviously, the rest of the Lions guys, they're all 5-4, so they're all short, but there's a strong chance they're going to get in. And then when it comes to who's going to win it, it really is a bit of a 50-50. I'll probably go for the Lions just because they're at home and they'll have the crowd behind them. And I think the crowd is going to become a thing in Detroit now. I think it's really going to start getting going and there's going to be more excitement there. So, yeah, I think the Lions will probably take it. But, I mean, to me, at the price, your Hart and Dotson at 12-5 is the main bet of that one.
Yeah, he was going to be my suggestion. I bet he looked very good, and Curtis Samuel as well. I think he's flying under the radar a little bit. We know what we've seen what he can do in previous seasons, so we know he's good. Jahan Dotson, it was week 1 for him. Can he continue it throughout the season? But Curtis Samuel, we know he's good and he's healthy. So that would probably be my bet. Amon-Ra St. Brown's always, like you said, he is literally just good for a touchdown every single week. We said it at the fantasy show. Put him in your team, he's good for a touchdown, definitely. But those odds show that as well. So I'll probably steer away from that one. I'm going to move straight into my winner or loser of this one, and I'm going with the Lions. We said this is more of an exciting game because it is a bit of a coin flip game, and that's what gives it this bit more of excitement. But I'm going with the Lions based on the fact they had the harder opponent week 1 and looked good. They were in it. They were all the way to the end. They had a chance. And Washington did it against the Jags. So I just feel like the edge is with, I think there's still some momentum there with the Lions going, we took the Eagles close. We can make a step forward in this one. So for me, at home, played the better opponent, looked good, looked like they can put points on the board. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions in that one as well. I think it's going to be a close one. It is a coin flip, but I'm going with the Lions. They can get over the line in this one. So up next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints.
So Brady has gone 0-4 against the Saints since he's been at the Bucs. It's going to be 0-5, isn't it? Going to happen. I like the Saints for this game. I think if you do like the Saints, go for they're offering +2.5 at 10-11, but you're better off going for the outright win at 6-5. You get the bigger price. And 2.5 is not enough to cover the field goal. So I think you go 6-5 for the win. That's currently what I'm seeing at the moment. The thing with the Saints, Kamara is scaring the hell out of me at the moment. He really is.
He's not going to play, is
he? Yeah, it look. Well, I think it's going to be a game time thing, but he looks like he's going to be out. I think he's going to be the worry on this team. I don't think he's going to get what he used to get. So I think for the future going forward, I think he's the one to worry about. However, these wide receivers look really good, and a lot of this game will depend if Jameis Winston's fit. He's another one who looks like he might be a game time decision, but they reckon he probably will play. All the time he's out there, it's going to be the receivers. I like Michael Thomas at 7-4. It's slightly bigger. I think he's a good shout. Your guy Chris Olave at 3-1, I think is another one who showed what he can do last week. He's going to be at 3-1. He's a big price, and the reason he's a big price is because he's going up against the Bucs and that defense, and the defense is really good, and you would expect them to win. You would really, but this record that Brady has there and the Bucs have there, and the Saints just play harder when it's Brady and the Bucks. It just seems to be what it is, and I don't see that changing. On the Bucks side, I do like Fournette. I think he's only 21 to 20, but I think that he's definitely one who's likely to get in. I, I think the Saints, they really struggled. I think they struggled against the run. Yeah, they were 29th against the run last week. Obviously, it was Cordero Patterson, but I mean, Patterson and Fournette, it's a bit, it feels a bit similar. So I think the Saints might struggle against that. So I think Fournette at 21 to 20. And then obviously you got Julio Jones, who is a game time decision, but he's going to be out there because Chris Godwin is out injured. So if Julio's fit, he's going to be there. He's going to be out there for quite a lot of it. At 12 to 5, he's another decent price. And you can't help but feel that Brady is going to be targeting him quite a lot because, with no Godwin there, Mike Evans is going to get, tried to mark out the game is essentially what's going to happen. So, yeah, I like Julio at 12 to 5 as a bit of a punt. But the real one for me here is Michael Thomas. And I just think, I really do feel, I mean, we'll see this week, because I think this week could be more of a test for him against the Bucs. But if he comes out of this with a touchdown and a decent performance, I think we can all pretty much say that, the old Michael Thomas is pretty much back.
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree with all of that. I mean, I'm swaying on the Saints side of things as well. I'm on that board. Just because you always say to win championships, you need to have that look of staying healthy. And the Bucs have started off unhealthy, haven't they? Mike Evans is carrying injury. I don't think he's not fully practiced all week. Mike Evans hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
Has got an injury. Russell Gage is out, right? And then Chris Godwin's out. So there's a lot of guys out there carrying injury. If they are going to play, they're going to have to play to make up the numbers. They're all carrying some form of niggle. They've got niggles on the O-line. So
I have to admit, I don't know how you felt about it, but I wasn't particularly impressed by them against Dallas.
No, I said when we were talking about week 1, I said every game was exciting. Every game was fun to watch. I said the one for me that wasn't was Bucs Cowboys. I thought both teams were very poor. Both of them struggled to put points on the board. Dallas didn't put any, but really. They didn't. They weren't impressive. They did the job, didn't they? That's all it was. And they're going up against a Saints team that I feel has got a bit of a point to prove this season. A lot of people doubt them still, and like you say, all of their receivers look good. They're all healthy. Taysom Hill, they'll just play him more if Kamara's not going to play. And he looked. He looked good when he was he made big plays. And then it's just about whether Winston can distribute the ball. So I just think there's a little bit more upside for me going into week 2 with the Saints. And as you say, I'll probably be putting Olave in one of my bets. I had him in one last week. He got the 2-pointer, but not that quite that touchdown. But he's good. He's good route runner, good hands. So I've no doubt.
I think in the next few weeks, you'll start to see him get better and better when he starts playing more and doing more with it. And I think that Jarvis Landry is kind of the slot guy, which he was with the Browns. So I don't see him getting a touchdown. He'll get yards, but I don't think he'll get the touchdown. And so I think Olave and Thomas are kind of the two that are going to do well.
I bet you wish that the Packers drafted him.
Would have been nice, wouldn't it? But we don't do things easy. So,
So we're on to the next game, and that is the Carolina Panthers at the New York Giants.
Yeah, I quite like your guys here. I have to say, I think they looked okay. I don't think they were amazing, but I think they looked okay last week. They seemed pretty competent. They were missing a few guys as well, which I noticed. So I think that that's definitely, some guys to come back in some important areas. As I said before, Carolina struggled with Cleveland's run game. and Saquon Barkley is back. So I think this is very much a Barkley game. There isn't really a bet for it. He's 8 to 11 anytime. It's very short. Over 75.5 yards is 10 to 11. I think he'll get it. I think he'll probably get it relatively easily, to be honest. So, I mean, you could go down that route. But the Giants ran for 238 yards against Tennessee, and like I said, Carolina struggled with Cleveland's run. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. It's going to be Barkley again a lot. I think he'll do well. And the only real bet that I can give you on this one is a complete punt. It really is. But I seem to be liking the 12 to 5s at the moment. And that's on Robbie Anderson. It felt to me that Baker Mayfield had a bit of a connection with him in the first game. He went 5 for 8 and 102 yards, got his touchdown. So because of that, I kind of feel like he might go back there. It's a slightly bigger price, but out of all of them, I'd probably be going more Jahan Dotson for Washington than I would be Robbie Anderson. But I think that they might get some joy out of the Giants defense. I don't think they'll get a lot. I could see there being it kind of feels like almost like a 24-21 kind of game, that sort of range. I mean, the over-under's 43.5. So yeah, it kind of feels that kind of game where I think the Giants will just nick it. And did you think you would be 2-0? Because it could happen.
No, I don't think many of us saw us winning the opening game of the season. So, when you're looking at the schedule and looking at where your wins are, that definitely wasn't one of them. Potentially, this one was. This one, when you're looking at it, with the issues they've got, yes, on paper they look better, but it's one of them you could nick. And I think that's what you're saying. I think it's going to be a very similar game to last week. I think it's not going to be exciting. I still don't think this is one to watch on the telly. It's going to be very, very gritty and very a simple playbook again from the Giants. I see. I don't think we're going to push Daniel Jones too hard, and we're going to rely on Saquon again, which is fine. A lot of teams have done that in the past and got a lot of joy out of it. So that's fine. I still do think the Panthers are the better team. I think they should be winning this one, but it's definitely going to be close. I'm probably going to go with they are better than what they were last week, and probably say the Panthers will nick this one. I just didn't see enough out of the receiving core from the Giants, other than Richie James looked reliable. I think that's the only thing I can say. Sterling Shepard's was a bit of a blown coverage, and that was it. That's all we really had. So I am going to be supporting the Giants. I want them to win, but I've got to be realistic and think that the Panthers are the better team.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think overall they are the better team. I just feel you've got the star man who looks fit. That's the thing. When it comes to Barkley, I think that there was a difference last week. The one thing I noticed is that before last year, he was running and he was just getting tackled and there wasn't really much to it. Whereas for last week, it felt, I don't know if it was just the excitement of the first week or what it was, but it just felt like he was ready to run through walls. It really did. He certainly seemed just that much stronger. And I think they're going to struggle to deal with that. And so, like I say, I'm going based on the fact that they really struggled with Chubb and Hunt. And I can see that they're going to struggle with someone who is of equal quality, or if not even, better quality than Chubb and Hunt. So I think that as long as the Giants keep it simple and stick with predominantly the run game, I think they'll be fine. And if they start trying to do too much out of Daniel Jones, I think it might go a bit wrong. So
we might see a bit more of him running as well, with the fact that Panthers struggle against the run. You might see Daniel Jones run a bit more. He might actually be a good bet for you to get in the end zone. They tried it a couple of times, didn't they? So
possibly. He might be. The problem is he normally trips up, doesn't he? So, you know, that's the issue with Daniel.
Once. I think, do you know what? I'm going to put that in my accumulate. I'm having Daniel Jones this week to score a touchdown. I think it's going to happen. Just so you know, on all of my bets and all of my predictions on everything, I had the Giants winning this one by 3. I think it's going to be down to a field goal. I just want to be realistic and against, you know, those bets are obviously optimistic. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a culture there finally, isn't there? It seems to be shining through. There's a bit more. The team want to play to win and to win for the coaches and the management and the defense as well. They're doing the same thing. It just looks like for once there is a bit of a culture there, and it's a positive culture. So yeah, I just want to be optimistic. So we'll move on from that one. And it is the New England Patriots at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, this is a defense is all the way, isn't it, in this game? I mean, there's not a lot.
And Najee Harris.
Well, I mean, you say that. Unfortunately, Najee's he's missed a bit of practice, hasn't he? He's been out. Is it a foot injury? I think it was. They said he had. He seems he's going to play. I think he's come out and said he's all right. So he's going to play, and we'll see how it goes. The Patriots did pretty well against the Miami run last week. They did seem to stop that quite well, and I don't know. I get the feeling, you know, we always say this, don't we? Belichick always takes out the main weapon of the opposition, and I feel like the main weapon of the opposition is Najee Harris for the Steelers now, because that offense wasn't great against the Bengals. It struggled. The reason they won was that their defense was just so amazing. So I do worry about the offense. There's literally one positive when it comes to the offense on the Steelers that I can see that I think is going to get the yards, potentially get the touchdown. And that's Pat Freiermuth. I think he's the only one who Trubisky sort of felt relatively comfortable with. And that's because it was short, quick throws out to the tight end. He's 11-5 for a touchdown, which I think is a nice price for someone like Freiermuth. I know he didn't score last week, but I think he's got a good chance. And 10-11, he's down at over 37.5 yards. He got 75 last week, and I think it's going to happen again. I just see lots of quick throws out to the tight end. I think Trubisky tried to get Deontay Johnson a bit more into the game, but it kind of happened a little bit, but not a lot. Chase Claypool didn't really do much at all. George Pickens didn't really do that much, but then he's a rookie. It was a bit disappointing there. Yeah, I just see Freiermuth doing well. When it comes to the Patriots, I don't know. They've just got nothing on the offense. There's just nothing there. I mean, Jacoby Myers, I think, is an all right receiver, but I don't see him scoring much. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, it's the two running backs that look good. I put Stevenson down. He's 2-1. So I think that's one that might be worth having a look at, just because I think they're both relatively equal when it comes to the amount of snaps. But yeah, it's a bit of a naff game. There's not a lot there. It's over 40.5. Exciting game. The Steelers, their defense, obviously, TJ Watt's gone for a little while. So they're going to be weaker. But I don't see this Patriots side really taking advantage of it. And so I think that the Steelers will win it. But I think it's their defense that will win it for them again.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've seen more from the Steelers than we did from the Patriots. And I don't think the loss of TJ Watt's massive. I think we went over it in the show. They brought in some names on that front seven, and it's still stacked with big names. Alex Highsmith had an absolute stormer of a game. There's no one saying that he can't just step up and fill that role, or anyone else can. So I'm not worried about that defense. I still think it's really, really good. as you've said, there's not much outside Jacoby Myers and the two running backs at the Patriots. Whereas I can see that Clay Chase-Paul, if you watch the game, he was used.
Who?
Big play Clay.
Who's Clay Chase-Paul?
I did this the other day, mate. Yes, I did it yesterday as well. He lines up at running back. He lines up at tight end. He lines up at wide out. I think you can't, when you're moving a player around that much, he's dangerous. And I think he's always got the chance to make a play or score at any point. So I would be inclined to the fact that they are using him like they did in his first year. They didn't the second year. They used him more of just a wide out with his height. So now they're moving him around again and using him and using him for running plays as well. I think that heightens his value, and I think he would be good for a stab in the dark of a bet. I bet his odds are decent enough for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I do feel that they're going to take out the run game, and so
yeah,
I think he's 5-2 anytime. So I think that they will try and take out the run game, and so by doing this sort of trick plays, I think that kind of incorporates that a little bit. So I see where you're coming from with him. I'm just like I just don't know if Trubisky's going to get him involved enough. It just feels very sort of, I don't know how long Trubisky's going to get this job for. It'll be really interesting to see how long it takes for Kenny Pickett to come over, but I don't know. The Steelers' offense just looks not quite there yet, so we'll see. I mean, it's only only week 1.
Yeah, precisely.
So,
I think you can only grow from there, can't you? So I expect baby steps, and if they take a step forward, then it's an improvement on last week, and they won last week. So
yeah,
that's why I'm punting on them this week too. So we move on to the big game of the early fixtures. It's the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Will they get a win in Jacksonville?
How our fellow franchise tag co-host George, bless him, I think he was having a Connery. It was watching that Houston game. It was not pretty to watch in the group chat. I think he's not going to like it. I think the Colts are going to struggle. There's certain things that there's just patterns. It just happens, but I don't know why. No one knows why. Frank Reich has never won in Jacksonville. He's 0-4. The last time the Colts won in Jacksonville, 2015. 7 wins in a row for the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Colts. And that Jags team has been bad, and they've still got the wins. And it doesn't matter when it is. I had a look at the dates because I was a little bit like, is it just that they're right at the end of the season and the Colts don't care anymore or something like that? They're not. They're all over the season. I think the Jags win it. I think they actually looked competitive last week. They're not amazing yet, but they look competitive. I thought Trayvon Walker was good. He looked like there was a reason why they took him at number 1. I thought he looked good. And Trevor Lawrence looked okay, not amazing, but he looked all right. And so you can see improvement. And I think for me, when it comes to the bets, Christian Kirk kind of comes across as though he's the number 1 wide receiver there. I think that he's the one who does get picked out a lot. But the one that I like for this particular game, Zay Jones. Zay Jones got 6 targets last week. He's 100-30. He had, 6 receptions it's decent. It's not bad. And Kirk had the same. He just got more yards, sort of thing, from it. But I think Zay Jones is one that's definitely worth having a look at. And at 100-30 is a decent price. Kirk is also 15-8, so he's not a small price either. So I think both of them would be all right. The Colts did well against the run last week. The Colts have always done well against the run and have always stopped it quite convincingly. So I'm a little bit apprehensive to go towards James Robinson or Travis Etienne. especially ETN, who seemed to struggle a little bit last week. Again, it was his first game that he's played in the NFL, but he did seem to struggle a little bit. And I think that I think they'll do okay. I think they've got a good chance. I mean, they're 7-5 to win. So if you fancy him to win, it's not bad, but you can get +3 as well at 10-11. So I like the Jags. Zay Jones at 100-30, I think is a good one. The only thing I really saw on the Colts side is that Matt Ryan, for a team that has struggled, Matt Ryan passed the ball an awful lot. And I mean, Jonathan Taylor is obviously a someone you look at, but the price is so short that it's not worth it. But Michael Pittman's out, and this is a big problem for them. It's about a third of his passing yards has got to go elsewhere, so it's going to go somewhere. The one guy who I thought looked pretty okay last week, a bit of a surprise, was Ashton Dulin. I think he looked okay. I think he had 3 receptions, 46 yards, and at 4-1, he's a big price. He might get a decent chance of getting in the touchdown, because where else is it going to go? This is what you're looking at now. It's becoming almost like there isn't anywhere else. So yeah, I like the Jags overall. Definitely like Zay Jones at 100-30, and Ashton Dulin at 4-1. I think is a punt that you could go for.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there with the Colts. The receivers they've lost now, you're now saying, where is it going to go? We were saying before the season started, they haven't quite got a number one guy. Pittman's good. They brought in Alec Pierce, who a lot of people were very pleased with. Paris Campbell hasn't stayed healthy. But all those guys are now injured, bar Paris Campbell, who's managed to stay fit. For me, he is the most skilled of that receiving core is Paris Campbell. Yeah. I think he is the best receiver they've got. But Dulin is the most consistent for them of end of last season and last week out of the guys that are there. I think you're probably leaning towards maybe seeing a bit more of Hines receiving the ball, maybe using him in that. But that is my massive worry with the Colts this week. I think they're still gonna win. I think Matt Ryan will find a way. He's done it for years in Atlanta when he's not had the guys there and made some better names. So I think the Colts are still going to win this one. I think they're a better team.
They are, and they should. But I don't like going against history. There's a reason that this happens, and it happens every time. And it's like saying that you're going to back Brady against the Saints. It's at the moment. It's the same thing. It happens too much. And when you get things like this, and you just sort of think, this is 7 years now that you haven't won, and you play them every year. This isn't like some team that you don't play it for ages. It's like you play them every year. You've lost 7 times in a row. You got a problem. Like, there's a mental problem here where going into that stadium, for whatever reason, it just isn't working. And it's weird because obviously, the players change and stuff like that, but the result remains the same. So why is that? There's something a little bit more. And so, it scares the hell out of you to be backing a team that are odds on to win, and they haven't won there in 7 years. It's
going for it. They break the chain. They get the win. I've got to think they've got to win that one, despite the fact, like you said, the Jags didn't look bad. They didn't look awful last week, did they? So they're starting to, as we said with when we're talking about the Steelers, baby steps, and they look like they took some steps. So you can only expect them to grow from that. So I think we're going to see a better Jags team this week than we did last week. But I just think that Colts team, it's just the receivers, and it's just time for some of those other guys to step up and show why they are in the NFL. So it's just giving some guys another chance to say, why the guys are out injured, you step up, you could win a place. Because there is a place to play for on that Colts team. They haven't fully set on which 3 it is. So I think they'll do the business and get it done. So on to the next game. Miami Dolphins at the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I think this is a potentially like an exciting game. They've got the over at 44.5, which I think that will be done. It's one of the, to be honest, when you actually look at some of these 6 o'clock games, the over unders quite low. There's not any high scoring games, but I think the Dolphins Ravens is one that will go up. Both teams. It's funny actually because the Ravens they struggled a little bit on the run last week, which was a bit of a surprise because normally it doesn't matter who the running back is; it just slots in and it's fine. But they did struggle a bit with it. Lamar Jackson he looked like he wanted to pass a lot more. Like he wanted to almost like show. Yeah. It just kind of felt like that was what he wanted to do a bit more, and there was a bit less of the run game. I think because of that, I think it'd be close. I like the Ravens to win it overall. I like I said, I like the over, so 10-11, 40, over 44.5. I like. But I think it's wide receivers you want to be looking at in this game. When it comes to the Ravens, obviously Mark Andrews is a big target for Lamar Jackson, but 6-4, he's a little bit short. He didn't get the touchdown last week, so chances are he probably might this week. But when I look at the others, it's Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay, and I know that Duvernay did well last week, but to me, when I see them both out on the field, and this is just a personal thing, I just think Bateman is the better wide receiver. I just think he's classier. And when you look at the prices, so Bateman's 9-4, Duvernay is 5-2. I just like Bateman. I think in this game, I think 9-4 is a good price for an anytime touchdown as well. So I like him. And then on the Dolphins side of it, it feels the same. I'm not 100% convinced with the run game, but I like the wide receivers. Tyreek Hill, obviously, just showed last week that I think, again, like we said with the Chiefs, without him, it was a little bit like, how's he going to deal in the new team? And I think a lot of people were a little bit apprehensive about him, but he looked good last week. I know it's against the Patriots and they struggled a bit, but even still, I think he looked good. He's 15-8. For Tyreek Hill, that's a huge price, but obviously it's because he's in Miami now. But yeah, I think 15-8 for Hill is a good bet. And then Jalen Waddle at 21-10, I think, is another one who I could see them both scoring like most weeks at the moment. They look good. They're gonna take defenders off of each other. So no, you can't double team one of them because the other one has scored. So it makes it works out for both of them. So yeah, I think both of them are definitely worth having a look at on the Dolphins side. But I think the Ravens will take it because I think their defense is just slightly better. And, they're at home, so they'll have the crowd on their side. And yeah, I just think I think they're both quite good teams, but I think the Ravens might just be a little bit better.
Yeah, for me, I thought the Ravens, if they were healthy, the Ravens were a contender to go deep in the playoffs. They were my sort of sneaky sort of underdogs because no one was really championing them to do great, but they looked good. I think the Jets got their game plan right, shut down the run game, and Lamar beat him with his arm. So fair play. But as you said, last season, Marquise Brown looked great at the start of the year when Bateman was out, and then as soon as Bateman was fit and was in that team, all of a sudden Marquise Brown stepped to the side and Bateman was the number one guy, and he proved that he is their number one, which is why they've let Brown go. Bateman is the man, and he is good. He's a very good talent. So I think you're right in what you say. I think he is the guy. I think Duvernay's it's one of them. He could probably go a game with no catches. He could and you wouldn't expect any different. So I think that might just be one of those weeks for him that he's done well. It's not going to happen every week, whereas Bateman is going to be every week. So I think he's a safer bet for me. Is J.K. Dobbins back this week? I think he's got to be healthy. He was supposed to be healthy last week. So
yeah, they're saying it's a game time decision for him. He is down as though he's probably going to see some time. I just the worry with him is obviously it's his first game back. You feel like they're probably going to have a snap count on him and something like that. They're not going to push him too hard. he is 7-5 at the moment, which is quite a short price for a guy who might not be out there for too much. This is the worry with him. He might start and be amazing. You just don't know. But it takes time to come back from these injuries.
Yeah,
So.
I think they start Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake, and then just slowly sort of put Dobbins in there. And if he looks healthy and looks fit, then they'll just roll with it and let him carry on playing. So it's going to be one of them. It's a dangerous bet, but I think it definitely elevates them as a team for the win if he does have a good game and is fit enough. I think that could be a difference maker. I like Miami. I like what they did week one. I thought they were good. I think if it was against anybody else, I'd probably have them down to win. It's just I'm quite hot on the Ravens this year of them doing well. It's the only reason. It's the only negative I can say for Miami. It's just who they're going up against. I thought they were good. I like what they're doing. Run game wasn't as I didn't expect it to be fantastic anyway. I think it still needs a bit of improvement, but they are good. But I'm sticking with the Ravens for this one as well. Onto the late fixtures, and the first one up is the Atlanta Falcons versus the LA Rams.
Yeah, I think this is going to be so. It's a 10-point difference in the betting here. I think this is going to be a pretty easy win for the Rams. The Falcons actually looked okay against the Saints. They showed that they could put points up against
standard.
Yeah, well, they showed they could put points up against them, and so I do. The over, it's 46.5. I do think the over is definitely one to look at in this one at 10-11. So I do like this one. When it comes to individual players, there's not a lot. I mean, Cup is the obvious one, but he's 4-7, so no one's backing that. They're just, I mean, Allen Robinson is just very short. The price is still short, and he didn't look great. But you got to bear in mind it was against the Bills, so no one's going to look particularly great. So yeah, I'm not really that keen to go on the Rams side with anything. The Falcons, like I said, I think they can score points. I think they can get a couple of touchdowns here. Obviously, you feel like Cordell Patterson is the main running back guy again. He's just going to keep going and going forever. He's going to become Frank Gore, this fight. He's just never going to end, sort of thing. He's 6-4, so he's a bit short. But the one that is potentially interesting, he had 72 rushing yards last week, got a touchdown. Marcus Mariota could be the one to look at, your favorite quarterback sneak touchdown. I think that at 4-1, I think he's definitely worth having a look at, and that he got, like I say, he got the touchdown last week in a similar way. I think he could be your new Ryan Tannehill for this season, where if all the time he's playing, he's going to run, he's going to rush the ball, and he's got a chance. Like I say, the Rams, they're a decent side. Obviously, they're going to stop the majority of it. But I do think that, that's the sort of play where they'll be so focused on Cordell Patterson that he might be able to sneak in and get in. So I do like the two running backs. I do like Patterson. I do like Mariota. I think they're the two on the Falcons side. But there's not a lot anywhere else, and I think the Rams will win it relatively easily. I think they'll want to prove a point after getting blown out as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. This is the most dangerous time to play the Rams. They've just, they lost to the Bills. It's I think a lot of people are going to lose to the Bills, so it's no shame in losing that. But when you're the Rams, you need to come back and show that it was just because it was the Bills, and you need to blow out teams like the Falcons. And I think the players are going to want to do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit embarrassing for them. I mean, it was opening night. They're Super Bowl champions. They're at home, and they got destroyed. So it is embarrassing. And so I think, but yeah, I feel that this is the comeback game.
It's got to be. Like I said, if the players aren't up for this game, to win this game, to prove that, week one was just a blip, week one, whatever, we are still good enough to go to the championship. This is the team they need to do it against. The Falcons are a weaker team. No one expects them to beat them. So I feel like they're going to put up the numbers. You can never rule out Tyler Higbee in that shout. Any of the wide receivers. Falcons, yeah, I think you're right in the players that you said. I think Mariota's a really good one to look at, just for the sheer fact there's not going to be a lot open down the field. They haven't got the wide receivers there, so Mariota is going to be scrambling around. But I agree, Rams for the win quite comfortably as well. I think they're going to win by more than 10 points. Next game, I think the next game is a bit of an interesting one. It's the Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, so looking at this one, there's a 9-point difference. They're giving the Seahawks +9 in this game, which I feel is a little high. The Seahawks showed that they can get pretty, they're not afraid to do the dirty work, and they're not afraid to sort of like, typical Pete Carroll team, run the ball and sort of do well. And Geno Smith showed that he can find DK Metcalf, he can find Tyler Lockett. It's never going to be amazing. They're not going to have high scoring games, but +9 feels quite a lot against the 49ers team who, it's difficult with the 49ers game away at Chicago because it was such a mess. It was so wet. You can't really take anything out of it. It's very, very difficult to know anything from that. So you kind of got to go based on what you saw last year and what you think is going to happen. I think the 49ers defense will be good because it normally is. I think the Seahawks defense is going to be awful because it normally is. But it's meant to be another rainy day. It's going to be a wet game there apparently, and it's not going to be as bad as what it was in Chicago, but it's going to be tough. And so I think that there's a reason that you've got the over/under at 40.5. I just like the idea of having a 9-point start and an over and under at 40.5. It just seems an obvious thing to me at 10-11. So I really like that. There isn't anyone on the Seahawks that I'm particularly interested in backing. I think Metcalf and Lockett are too short because they're Metcalf and Lockett. With the 49ers, it's going to be in the run game. Deebo Samuel's incredibly short in a game where it looks similar to what it could be last week. Jeff Wilson is 13-10. Obviously, he's going to come in as the main running back to take over after Elijah Mitchell got injured. The only guys that, if you want to punt, Ty Davis Price at 15-4 and Jordan Mason at 9-2, they've essentially come out and said that they're going to give them game time to basically have a competition as to who the backup running back's going to be. So they are going to get involved in the game a little bit. So I think them two, it's a real punt. It really is. There's no real confidence behind them two. I think Wilson will probably get in at 13-10, but it's short, and you just kind of feel like, do you want to be back in that? I think the 49ers win. I don't think they win by more than 9.
Yeah, I agree totally with that. I think they win, and I don't think they win by 9 as well. I think that's where I've got it. I think it might be close towards the end. It might be sort of a field goal in it, maybe a bit more. But yeah, 49ers, they're just the better outfit, aren't they? I think they're going to be set up for this one. And I like Trey Lance maybe to get in the end zone. I think with the fact that running game isn't definitely nailed on, I think there might be chance for him to showcase a little bit more what he can do with his legs. And I think he's going to have to step up this week because there was a few doubts of him last week. So I think he's really want to go showcase his skills. And I think, Ayuk and Debo will do their bit for him. So he needs to do what he does with his legs as well. So I think there's a good shout that Trey Lance will get in the end zone this week.
Yeah, so he's 7-4 anytime. So yeah, there is we know that he's a rushing quarterback. It's what he does, and so yeah, there is a good chance. He seemed to really struggle last week. Like I say, it's difficult because of the weather and stuff like that. But then the weather's going to be the weather's going to be bad in this one. This is the problem. It's like
it's not going to be bad, is it, in San Francisco?
No, it's not going to be as bad as it was. But so you do just sort of worry a little bit on that one. I just still, with quarterback, I want to see him do it first before I back it, I think is what it is. I'd rather be on Mariota at 4-1.
I'm just I've got my treble. That's my treble sorted, isn't it? That's Trey Lance, Mariota, Daniel Jones. Sorted.
Yeah.
I'm in for the big money. Next game up is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Obviously, Dak Prescott is out injured. They reckon 6 weeks, is it? I think they're saying that he's out for with the broken thumb. The Cowboys looked pretty rough when he was playing, to be brutally honest, let alone when he's not there. The only thing that the Cowboys have got in their favour is that they're at home again, and so maybe they might want to put in a slightly better performance, but it's grasping at straws a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think the Bengals will take this. I think it'll be relatively comfortable as well for them. They struggled against the Steelers defense, but the Cowboys defense isn't the Steelers defense. Yeah, I think they've got a 7. They're giving the Cowboys 7 points. I think the Bengals will take it, and I was looking at the prices for them, and the problem is because they know they're playing the Cowboys and that the Cowboys are struggling. All the prices have gone in. Chase is odds on. Boyd is 2-1. He's the one who might be worth having a look at, especially if Higgins isn't playing. No, that's definitely a game time decision. Mixon is odds on. Yeah, I mean Higgins and Boyd, if they're playing, because Higgins is 13-8. Great wide receiver. Tyler Boyd is 2-1, but if Higgins is out, get on Tyler Boyd. I'd say at 2-1. That's the price. That's the value. The only other thing that I really saw was Dalton Schultz over 41.5 yards at 10-11. I think that Schultz is going to see a lot of the ball from Cooper Rush. If it's going to go anywhere, I think it will go to him. CeeDee Lamb, I'm not like, concerning for CeeDee Lamb, I think. But yeah, I think the Bengals take it, and I think it'd be relatively comfortable for them.
Yeah, I think we've got not the same, but a similar scenario of what we're saying with the Rams here. I think the Bengals have got to come out and really assert their dominance on this game and show that they're not just a one season and done, and they're going to lose those close games. I think they need to come out and really put the Cowboys to bed early. And after seeing how they were, I mean, for me, the Cowboys, Parsons was the only player that looked decent at all. So yeah, I think the Bengals for me I think they just needed a week one with that O-line, because it's a lot of new guys on it. I think they just needed them to click, and they've had that week now. So I see back to form Bengals of what we saw last year from this week.
They remind me of the Chiefs when the Chiefs brought in all their new O-line guys. They really do. I feel like it's that kind of thing. And give it a few weeks, and you'll be halfway through the season, and that O-line will be fine. I think that's what it is.
The names they brought in on that O-line were massive names with a huge amount of talent. They're not new guys from college that we're unsure about. So I think they needed that week one out of the way, and they'll be fine this week, and we'll see the Bengals of old. And I think they'll win this comfortably. I can see them winning it by more than 10. And who knows? We might see a better CeeDee Lamb without Dak. That would be quite the story. But I don't see anything from them really enough to beat this Bengals team. No. So I'm going to stick with the Bengals on that one. Next game up is the Houston Texans at the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I think again we've got another game. 10 points they're giving to the Texans on this one. I think the Broncos will feel like they've had a bit of a bloody nose from the Seattle game. They're not going to be very happy with that, and I think they're going to want to prove a point, especially at home. It's funny, the early games are very low scoring and very tight, and then the late games we got some real big favourites in this. I think they'll win it. I think they'll win it pretty easily. Obviously, you've got the offense is loaded on the Broncos. It's just a matter of really getting it there. Texans struggled against the run a little bit because they were against Jonathan Taylor. But Javonte Williams is 5-6. So if you want to put him in an accumulator sort of thing at 5-6, I think he'll score. Melvin Gordon at 6-5. They both fumbled the ball. They both should have scored. So I think that they'll do well. got Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. They're all around there, 11-10 and 6-5. It's all very short prices that you kind of feel they've got a good chance of scoring. They do, but there's no real massive value in it. The one bit of value that I can see, and I think this is going to be every week, and this price I don't think is going to change that much, is Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks at 12-5. He had 12 targets last week. I think he's going to be getting double-digit targets every week because there's no one else to throw the ball to, and he's the one who still has the speed and he still has the potential to break away. And I just think because of that, he's at 12-5. I think that's the price. That's the one that's a decent shout. Yeah, I think the Broncos win it relatively easily. I think, like I said, they'll want to prove a point, and the 10 points, I think they could do it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, again, like we said, with the Bengals and the Rams, they've got a point to prove, haven't they? And it's going up against a team that no one expects big things of. So these are the ones you've got to win. I think they win it quite comfortably. I think Russell Wilson might be given a little bit more freedom this week to do what he wants to do, as it quite clearly didn't work last week. So I think we might see a better Broncos offense than what we did last week. So I'm quite comfortable in saying that I think both those running backs will get in the end zone. So if you can get them in a double with each other, I think I honestly do think both of them will go in.
I don't know if you can do that.
I think you can. Surely you can. You can have both of them. Yeah. I think you can do bet builders on the game. So.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you can get any time for both of them.
Yeah.
You just can't get. I don't think you'll get both of them for first touchdown.
No.
But yeah, I think they comfortably win this one. Houston held their own. But yeah, this team. I still see the Broncos as a team to watch out for the season. So I think they'll win this quite comfortably. Next game up is an interesting one. It's the Arizona Cardinals at the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, the Cardinals were not great but they were against the Chiefs. So they kind of got blown out a little bit, and it was a tough game for them. Again, like with everything else, you would expect them to want to bounce back. The difference is on this one, they're on the road, and they're on the road to a decent side. I think the Raiders showed that they're going to be competitive. I just still maintain that their overall squad is not strong enough to compete with the Chargers or the Chiefs in their own division. So yeah, I like the Raiders for this game. I think that they'll do okay. There's not a lot to back on this game, to be brutally honest. I mean, Devontae Adams showed that he's just a very, very good wide receiver, and that's never going to change. But he's at 4-6, so it's like the price isn't really there. On the Cardinals side, James Conner is the obvious one at 11-10. It feels like the run game was something that they wanted to sort of certainly do pretty well in. So yeah, 11-10. I think he's definitely one worth looking at, but he is quite short. I'm Hollywood Brown. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I feel like as a number one, he's not quite there, but as a number two, he's amazing. And the problem is that he's been at these, when DeAndre Hopkins is back, I think he'll be very, very good. But at the moment, I feel like he's being marked out the game a lot. And it's difficult because, like I say, it was the Chiefs. So it's tough to sort of like really work it out. But one guy, if you fancy a bit of garbage time touchdown as we had last week, and it will happen again, he always gets there, is Zach Ertz at 15-8. There's your value, I think, is Zach Ertz at that price. But I think the Raiders will be too strong for him.
I think this is a bit of a coin flip game. I'm edging towards the Cardinals winning this one.
I just don't like them. I don't know what it
Well,
is.
I'm not their biggest fan.
No, I know. I'm just not keen on him. I'm not keen on Kyler. He's one of them where I can see the talent, but I just don't. I wouldn't want him as my quarterback. That's kind of my attitude with him. And then I just think without a Hopkins there, it's just not great. And I mean, if you do like the Cardinals, they're 39-20 at the moment to win, plus 5.5 against the Raiders. I just think the Raiders are just, like I say, they're not good enough to beat the Chargers or the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But I think they're good enough to pick off some of these teams in other divisions that, and they're at home and they're going to have the crowd there. And I just feel that they've got it in them to win a game like this.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's a coin flip. I like both teams. I agree with you. I think they are both two teams that are not good enough to go all the way, but are good enough to push for a playoff spot. Definitely. I think maybe the Raiders a bit more than the Cardinals. I don't know. There's something this week for me that because they got blown out against the Chiefs, that they might bounce back a little bit better. They might do something different. I don't know. They were in it at the start. It was that middle, and then it looks like they gave up towards the end of the game. So it's going to be close. I think there's a field goal in it. I'm going to lean towards the Cardinals for the win. Just going against you for one of them. Rare. Okay, so the late night game, if you're going to stay up for it, Adam, it's the Bears at the Packers.
Come on, let's get another loss in the
yeah.
Okay, Matt LaFleur is 9-0 after a loss. He's never lost 2 games in a row. It ain't going to happen. The Bears are not good enough. They got lucky. It was chucking it down with rain, and they fluked their way through. A lot of this is going to depend on Allen Lazard, if he's fit or not. He's going to be a game time decision, but I still think that we're going to have enough in Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I think they're the two guys all season. I think it's going to be them two that are going to be the main weapons. And to be honest, it's just going to be a matter of whether these rookie wide receivers can kind of get it going and kind of get into the scheme quick enough in order to be able to work. Jones is even money for a touchdown. Dillon is 13-10. I prefer Dillon, to be honest, to get the touchdown. I just think Jones is going to be the sort of more of the pass catching guy, whereas I think Dillon's going to do the more of the rushing. So I think that I like that price for him. If Lazard is playing, 15-8, you're going to go Lazard. It's a decent price if he's playing. And then I had a look and I saw Watson and Doubs are both 13-5. I think it's too early to be backing them personally. We saw with Watson, you're going to get these things with rookies. They're going to make mistakes and things like that are going to happen. So I just feel like that's going to be an issue for them. So yeah, I mean, Dillon is the real one for me at 13-10. If Lazard is out there, then 15-8 is a great price for him. But yeah, I with the Bears, I didn't really see anything that I was particularly keen on. I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, even last week it was only it was Equanimous St. Brown, wasn't it? Who scored the touchdown. So Mooney had a rough game. Komet, I don't even know if Komet had a reception.
He dropped it.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know. There's not a lot there. The only thing that is there is Montgomery. You know that he's going to probably, he might rush one in, but the price is so short for that, where it's a maybe. Yeah, I don't see anything on the Bears. I think the Packers come back because that's what the Packers do.
Yeah, I still believe the Packers are a good team. We saw them last season losing week 1 badly. So there's nothing that strikes me that says they can't bounce back and do that. I think there's week 1 for the rookie receivers, especially Christian Watson. I think his eyes lit up. He saw the end zone. He was in the clear, dropped the ball.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see that week 2. I don't think you're going to get necessarily the nerves as much. He's got a game in the books now, so maybe he'll be a bit more comfortable. And I think for me, he is probably the one to look at with the pace that he's got downfield. I think he could find himself open again if you are looking at one of those rookies. As for the Bears, yeah, it's only run. I mean, there's never going to be a lot of catching in the weather like it was.
No.
It was Montgomery and Herbert really, and Fields managed to negotiate his way through the game to a win somehow. But I don't think he's not going to get it against the Packers. They're too good of a team. You just need some wide receivers to wake up, and you're a dominant force again because your run game looked fantastic still. So
yeah, I think they will as well. I think it's just like we said, it's one of them things where it's time. I think Watson is definitely the one of the two where you sort of think he might, he can do it. And the fact that he got himself, I'm the one thing that was obviously the score was disappointing against the Vikings. But what would have been more disappointing would have been if they weren't creating the chances, and but they were. That's the point. It's like Dillon got stuffed on the line where he should have got it in, so that's touchdown. Watson should have got that. If that was a seasoned veteran, then that would have been it, sort of thing. So at least they're creating the chances to win the game. So that's the thing that's most important. So
against a good team as well. Let's not, the Vikings.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
the Bears are not the Vikings as well. So,
no. And the Vikings, I mean, I know we'll come on to the Vikings later, but as I said, I think they will improve from last year, and that they are a playoff team.
Yeah. So on to the next game. It's the Tennessee Titans at the Buffalo Bills.
Why have we got two games on Monday night and they're both playing around the same point?
Not a clue.
Excellent. Right, yeah, the Titans and the Bills. 10-point favourites are the Bills. Over/unders 47.5. I can see the over being hit on this one. I think the Bills could really do well, and I can see them covering the 10 points as well. Diggs, obviously, 5-4. Gabriel Davis is now also an obviously at 5-4 as well. I mean, both these guys look really good. Dawson Knox struggled last week away at the Rams. He didn't do a lot, but so I don't know about the 6-4, but he is a touchdown. He is a red zone target, so at 6-4, I think he's well. And Isaiah McKenzie, I think he's the slot guy. So it's going to be him and Crowder, and it's going to be really who wins that. But I think McKenzie at 9-4 isn't a bad shout. The Titans they struggled against your guys last week. They struggled against the run. Derrick Henry was not Derrick Henry. And I know the Bills are the Bills, so they're amazing. But they only gave up 52 yards in the run against the Rams. And I know Derrick Henry is, better than Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. But you do wonder whether, this is sort of like the signs of him slowing down potentially a little bit. You just it's only one game, so you can't really go mental on it, but you do worry that this could be something there. I don't really see a lot on the Titans side, to be honest, that I'd be interested in betting on. And like I say, at the prices for the Bills, there's not a lot on the Bills side that I'd be that interested in. It's all a bit short. But McKenzie, I think, is the value, and the Bills will win pretty easily.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with the Titans. Other than Derrick Henry, I didn't see anything more from them.
No.
So
Robert Woods really struggled. He didn't really do anything, and Treylon Burks he needs to get up to speed. And you just look at it, and was it Hilliard, wasn't it, who scored?
Yeah, the backup running back, isn't he? And he looked more included in he was probably their best receiver. I think they used him to dump it off to. So he didn't have a lot. He just looked most flashy, really. Yeah. That's bad times for the Titans, and the Bills look so dominant. And Byron has told me he's watched enough tape and enough film to say, don't give up on Singletary. So, we saw Saquon run riot over them. So can Singletary get it going? this
So
week.
this is the problem with from a betting point of view. I do agree with him actually. I do think Singletree he's certainly a lot better than Moss. Certainly a lot better than Moss. And I know that we've spoken about James Cook before, but obviously he didn't exactly have the greatest start to his
On
NFL
his
career.
first play, on the bench you go.
Yeah. So, but Singletree, I completely understand where he's coming from. Purely from a betting point of view, though, this is the issue. So Davis is 5-4, Diggs is 5-4, Josh Allen is 5-4, Singletree is 11-8. He's literally 1 point higher. I would be on all three of them before Singletree, and that's the problem. Just purely from a betting point of view, yes, he would. I think if he gets more of the ball, he'll do well. But I just don't think you'd be backing him.
Nah, you got to be on Josh Allen to run it in before Singletary. Yeah. So yeah, I'll probably steer away from that on the odds. But yeah, we're both Bills easy win on that. I think they'll win comfortably. And on to the last game. I think it's an interesting one. It's the Vikings at the Eagles.
I think to be honest, apart from the first game with the Chiefs and the Chargers, this is probably the most exciting game of the lot, which is why they probably put it on Monday night. Yeah. The over is 50.5. I like that to be hit. I think that will happen. You've got two really good offenses and two defenses that, although we saw the Vikings defense do well against the Packers, like I say, they had opportunities. They did let potential big plays go. So I'm not completely sold on the defense of the Vikings. The Eagles defense, I was a little surprised that they gave up as much as they did to the Lions, but I do feel like this one is a high scoring game because of it. Jalen Hurts for the Eagles obviously is always potential for a touchdown at 5-4. AJ Brown looked really good in his first game. I don't see that changing. It's like it didn't matter who the Lions put on him. He just looked really good. He's 11-8, so I think that's a decent price there. Dallas Goedert, I know he didn't score last week, but he's he is kind of the safety blanket in a bit similar to how Pat Freiermuth is in Pittsburgh. I think that he's got a chance. He's 8-5. I think there's a chance that he scores. The one thing I would say, the Eagles did struggle against the run, which makes me sort of moving over to the Vikings. I think obviously Dalvin Cook is definitely worth looking at. He is 4-5 though, so he is very short. So it's not really that great. Obviously Justin Jefferson, but again he's 4-5, so that doesn't really help you. I like Thielen. I think he wasn't great last week, but he showed that he's still there. He's still available. He's going to be the number 2 guy. And so at 8-5, I think he's more of the value price, similar, same price as Goddard. But there isn't really anything major in this game. I think it's going to be the main guys and the main protagonists that are going to do really well in this game. But I do like the over. I think there'll be more than 50 points.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be who can put the most points on the board. The only thing I can say for this one is the offense of the Vikings went up against a top 5 defense in the Packers, whereas the Eagles played the Lions, who are still building that defense and put up points. So for me, I think there's the more chance that the Vikings have got the better team to put more points on the board and maybe shut the Eagles out a bit more. So I'm going to sway towards the Vikings, but I think this is going to be an absolute shootout. I think it's going to be a high score again. I think it's big up and down the field, but the Vikings, I think, have just got the edge in this one for me. I don't know whether I'm just being biased, but I just think there's a little bit more to like on the whole, whereas the Eagles is just run game, and maybe we'll see a bit more out of Smith. Maybe I don't think he was their main wide receiver last year. He didn't do anything last week, so he's not got bad overnight. So I think Smith might turn up a bit more this week.
I think they're two very evenly matched sides. I really do. It's very difficult. I mean, I kind of went I do put quite a lot into teams being at home and having the crowd behind them. I do put a lot on that. So that's why I kind of went for the Eagles. And then maybe I'm biased as well because I don't want the Vikings to win.
Yeah.
But I do kind of feel like because of that, that's why I went for the Eagles. But to me, they are two teams where the defenses are not brilliant. They're good, but they're not brilliant. The offenses are quite dynamic on both sides. They've got potential. Both teams have got real potential to score points. It's just in slightly different ways where the Eagles is a little bit more run game because of Hurts. But I think it'll be very, very close, and I think there'll be lots of points. And they're both. I would be surprised if both teams are not in the playoffs by the end of this season. Sort of like I can see the Vikings certainly being a wild card, and I can see the Eagles
Top in their group.
top in their division.
Yeah. I mean, before the season started, week 2, you put that in front of me. I'm saying the Eagles win that one. It's just how well I thought the Vikings played against a top team in Green Bay that is making me sway towards them. So, like I said, before the season started, I said this was an Eagles win easy. But yeah, the Vikings have proved me wrong week 1. So I'm going to stick with how well they played. So that is the only swing in that for me, the fact of how well they played week 1. Otherwise, I'm going Eagles. So that's all the games. We probably ran over a lot longer, but we're getting back into the swing of it.
It's because there's no buys. That's why you got all these games.
Any big bets for us, Adam? Anything you want to?
I haven't really done anything multiples as in like massively to go for. There are certain guys that I think have got good chances, like Ashton Dulin for the Colts at 4-1. I think that's a really good price for him. So that's certainly one to look at. Like Zay Jones as well in the same game at 130. So that's good. Jahan Dotson, 12-5 for the Commanders against a defense that gave up 38 points, did they, against the Eagles? I think if Carson Wentz can do well. So I like Jahan Dotson this week. I think it's a bit late in the day because he kind of did well last week, but I think he's definitely one to look out for. Once you sort of get past that, I mean, you got the Saints. I think Tom is slightly smaller. Thomas at 7-4, I think, is a really good bet to go for. And then really Brandon Cooks at 12-5 as well, I think is certainly one that you should look out for. I think he's the guy, isn't he, for Houston? He really is, and there isn't anyone else. So yeah, I think there's a few guys here where the prices are reasonably big, and I think it might just be because it's still the beginning of the season, the bookies haven't quite caught up with certain ones yet. But yeah, I think that's what you're looking at. I mean, if you put like Jahan Dotson at 12-5, Ashton Dulin 4-1, and who was the other one?
The other one that's big enough.
Brandon Cooks at 12-5. You have them 3 together. I had no idea what that's going to be, but it's probably going to be pretty high.
Off a fiver, you're coming out with more than £100 on that.
Yeah. So there's some, there are some bets out there that you can certainly get. So yeah, but Baby Gronk as well.
Yeah. So that's week 2. We've told you who's going to win them all. I think there was only 3 games we sort of differed on. So that'll be interesting to see what happens in them. Adam, thanks for joining me for the preview show. We'll be back again on Tuesday, Fantasy Show Thursday, and back with this show next Sunday as well. Best of luck to all your teams. And good luck.